program here at Luther. We were told at the beginning of the year that she was too immature to attend. After 3 days of her attending, we were told not to bring her back. We talked about having her tested for disabilities. We are also aware that the school must provide these tests. After dozens of phone calls and visits to the school over a 4-month period, we finally had her tested. She does have a learning disability and an IEP. Once we finally figured out what type of problems we were facing and did a little research, we discovered that the school shouldn't have denied her. So we went back to the school and met with Mrs. Wilson and figured that since we had a diagnosis that we could move forward and provide our daughter with an education. Mrs. Wilson flat out said no, that there was no point in doing it now, just to restart her next year and make her repeat pre-K. We have had Dottie in Apple Creek ever since school turned us down, paying several $100s a month for this service. She informed me that she was a professional educator and had a custom plan for Dottie's education. I asked her what Dottie's IEP or disabilities were. She had no idea. She hadn't even looked at her paperwork. So I pressed forward with trying to reason with her. She still said no. She told me that she didn't have the budget for it. I said, okay, can I get that in writing? And she said no, because she didn't know what I was going to do with it. And I actually recorded it all just for our record that, she was denied. And by law, I did, after research, by law, that if the program is offered, then she has to be given the services. She has to be offered the services. I called the special education state office and the accreditation office. And why would we want this for her? Because she's going to struggle anyways. We want her to be given a fair education, just like everybody else. Dottie, the reason why she's probably struggling is because she's actually, we adopted her. She's actually my husband's sister's child. And she was diagnosed with cancer and had cancer and was pregnant, and they said, do you want to either keep the baby and do chemo or abort the baby, or do you want to keep the baby and you may not live? And she ended up keeping Dottie. She passed away 3 weeks later. May was born, we call her May. But anyway, she was born at 28 weeks and she weighed 1 pound, 10 ounces. She'd fit in the palm of your hand. She stayed the first few months in the NICU at OU, and we actually made the Today Show. It made national news. This little girl's a miracle, and we are not going to forget God's grace overnight and send her away to be overlooked. Postpone her education over misappropriated funds so that a superintendent can have new office furniture. We will fight for this child I will fight for this child for all that I am, and as I would for any of my kids. I'd like to tell you that injustices didn't stop there. I'd like to say that. But there's more. Our 5-year-old son was struggling to keep up, so we arranged for him to be tutored after school with one of the teachers in her classroom. This worked out great. In just a matter of a few sessions, Jack was back on target and keeping up with his class. Jack started his tutoring back in September, and this went well with no objection from the school for the past several months. My husband and I talked it over and we decided to see if we could get Dottie tutored as well, just to give her a little extra help, that she needed. And our tutor was agreed, and she started. And here's where Mrs. Wilson got approached about getting Dottie back in public schools, and told her I was aware of the law. Within 2 days, she called me and said that our kids couldn't be tutored at the school anymore, and she actually said it was against the law. So I made a few phone calls, and it's not illegal. There's no Oklahoma legislature stating that it is illegal to have tutoring on school campus. And I contacted Mr. Buxton, I guess it was Friday, and he was advised against it by his attorneys. He also asked for the name and number of the person who I talked to so he could verify what I was saying. I gave it to him and he never even called her. So I'm tired of hearing all this talk about the children and what's better for them. It does no good, to talk if we don't match our words with our actions. So I'm asking that, that our daughter is considered as well as our son. Thank you.